Alright, so we'll start from the bottom and go right to the top. Let's do this. Reconquista asks, will there be plenty enough male-female ships added like Summer Qrow and Black Sun? Perhaps Iceberg, Rosegarden, and other stuffs about Arcos? Cause I had a hell of a time trying to deal with lesbian or gay shippings in the original, and a bit fed up with it. This is a shipping question, yeah. So this are ships. They are definitely straight ships, so Mr. Reconquista, you don't have to worry about that. In terms of, well, there will be. I've mentioned them before, like Rosegarden is one of them, and some are definitely up in the air, but haven't considered it yet. But as for same-sex ships, I do think there will be a thing. So that is something to note as well. So as we get to more shipping questions, I will definitely talk more about it. Hi Dragon asks, first question, how relevant will the independent members of Team STRQ be early on? Well, short answer is Team STRQ is definitely more prominent in Remnants. So Remnants itself is focused a lot on Team STRQ, so you don't have to worry about that. And early on too, yeah, I mean, you've seen the Summer Rose video, Law for the Wolves. I mean, it's something I intend to do. Second question, will we see any of the side characters sooner or later, like Juniper or some of the school staff? I think we might. They're definitely, I'm not sure if all the side characters will be there, but I'll definitely prioritize canon characters, and I think some will appear. Maybe not all, but definitely a few. Third question, will any of the lore be similar to Cherish, or have y'all made some new changes to it? Cherish was my previous RWBY rewrite attempt, and to answer that, the lore is completely different. Actually, I've sort of rewrote it by scratch, made it a lot simpler. There are some familiar aspects to it actually, but a lot of it is used, some of it's not. So fourth question, are you going to integrate characters past Volume 3 like Oscar, Watts, Tyrion, Maria? There is Oscar, so that answers that question, so thank you for that. Viking01 asks, will we see the characters' backstory in a more fleshed out way? Like, will we see John's family, or will we see more of Ren's family, or Noah's past, or Pyrrha? Backstory. Yeah, I think so, definitely. For the more major characters, for sure. So yeah, don't have to worry about that, because the format of Remnants is more, it kind of jumps around between characters. It's not really as linear, because you know, it's just a bunch of different videos, whatever really interests me at the time. So so it will definitely explore different characters. Yeah. Ugo asks, what's your plan in the future of RWBY Rejuvenated? Will it continue as video segments, or will you make it to something else? Comic animated series? Yeah, this was a pretty common question, I think, as I was reading through some of that. And to give you the short answer is, these videos are the content, you know. It's not a comic, it's not an anime. I'm not an animator. I do draw comics, but in a way these videos are my way of kind of mixing all my different interests together. So, you know, I can have all the sort of artistic style of a manga, but combine that with, you know, like a bit of the sort of animatic quality of animations and voice acting. So these videos are the format that I will be using. Dark Master MC asks, what's your favorite video game? That's a tough one. But I think the most influential video game that I've played is by far Persona 4. It was a game I played in high school. My friend recommended it to me, and it's somewhat what got me into anime. I mean, I was already interested in it, but it was definitely that early point of my interest, and it was really a game that really defined a lot of my teenage years. It really helped me see things differently. It's a very, very good game. You should really try it out. Persona 4 Golden, I've not actually played it yet, so I intend to definitely get it on Steam when I can. Alan asks, hi, at first Blake's French accent's very cute and I like it. Please don't change it. I mean, why would I? I already did it, so thank you. You have 3 questions. Alright, let's hear them. Are there still 2 types of huntsmen and huntresses I can cherish? And what about lore in general? Yeah, so like I said, lore is different. This talk about 2 types of hunters is an element from RWBY Cherish, and basically divided hunters into venators and sentinels, and those 2 venators are sort of like who like go out into the world and, you know, fight grim, hunt stuff, whereas the sentinels are more like the garrison, the people who deal with trade, with diplomatic relations, with defending the borders. So I'm not sure if I'm implementing that. It's a cool idea, but it really, given the story right now, it really, if that is a thing or isn't a thing, it doesn't really impact anything. So it's not really something that's on my mind. So thank you for that. Roland S asks, I'm not sure exactly what questions I have, but what I'm most interested in story. Will this project have a story arc? Are there any ambitions to attempt something to that effect? Well, you can't really have something without story. So yeah, there will be a story, but I'm not a very writerly sort of guy. I like to write, but I don't really outline the things I do, right? I do have an idea of what I want though, so you don't have to worry about that. Kristen asks, Bumblebee? I'll get to that later. Fizzy asks, does Diavolo die within this universe? Don't talk to me about JoJo. I've never watched it, never got the hype, so don't ask me. Thank you for the question. Noob Artist 600 asks, do you intend to still incorporate the Chosen One narrative with the Silver Eyes shtick? To me, anime girls killing giant monsters was all the original show ever needed to be. I'm still dancing with the idea of the Silver Eyes, but it's definitely not the same Silver Eyes as in the show. It would be very different if I do choose to implement that. So the whole Chosen One thing, I mean, no matter how you slice it, RWBY is special in the sense that she is, you know, more talented than appears, because, you know, she entered Beacon 2 years ahead, so she is special. But the whole Chosen One thing maybe won't be as stated, as prominent. So there's that. Thank you for the question. Max Jira Prime asks, do you plan to make an original character RWBY series? And if so, are you interested in helping someone do the same? Okay, now this is okay. So this is talking about things like those video projects of other creators making their own RWBY OCs. Like most famously is Mark Zhang's. Sorry about that. Most famously is Mark Zhang's Silver series, and which his latest work was Regalia, which is an amazing piece of work. And to a lesser extent, there are other AU OC projects like Team Dark, which I recently watched. Is very cool. So, would I want to make one? I wouldn't necessarily say no, but given what I'm doing with Remnants, I'm definitely focusing on the canon characters as much as I can, and only really consider an OC if there's really no character that can like properly fill that role without drastically changing them. So, but I do have RWBY OCs. I have quite a few. I've made them, in fact, with some of my close friends on the server. They have their own characters, so they have like its own cool RWBY team. And back then, I was interested in implementing OCs into stuff like that. And as for whether I'd be interested in helping someone to do the same, funny thing, I have considered volunteering for such things, especially like or something like maybe like Mark Zhang's Silver. I had considered, so like maybe like drawing a manga or something for it, but I was lazy, so I didn't do anything about it. I did draw a fan art of his character from the Charcoal trailer. What's his name? Charbonneau. Last name Charbonneau. You can see it on my DeviantArt Twitter. You can find it. But that's the extent of that. Amelia Henry asks, is RWBY Cherish or now Remnants a comic or animation? So that is basically the same. It's basically the same question as last time. It is what it is. It's a video series, voice acted. That's exactly what you're seeing now. Is exactly what it's going to be. So thank you for that. Least Likely Suspect asks, top 5 favorite RWBY scenes and why they became your favorite. Okay. Off the top of my head, I can't maybe I can't list 5, but definitely my absolute favorite, like first place, is definitely Players and Pieces, which is Team RWBY, Team Juniper versus the Death Stalker, and Team RWBY versus the Nevermore, and that has consistently been my favorite scene in the whole show. Every time I watch it, it's just every time I watch it, just get chills. Watching it, really that episode, that scene in particular, really reminds me of why I love the show so much. As for other scenes I can think of, just off the top of my head, really, there are some very cool scenes as of recent in RWBY, like the whole Ironwood versus Watts fight, and like the whole Ren speaking the truth in Volume 8. But as for like favorites, like scenes I really like, I mean, off the top of my head, Volume 3, RWBY, the beginning of Volume 3, RWBY speaking to in front of Mother's grave. I like that one. The entirety of the Black trailer is my favorite of the 4 trailers. Especially the ending, where it's like the whole screen goes red, and then Blake fades off in the distance. That's my favorite moment from the trailers. I tend to really like, I tend to really like the more conversational scenes in RWBY 2 actually, like the campfire scene in Volume 2, where they were just like standing watch, and then Yang, Blake, and Wise have this conversation about why they want to become huntresses, and even before that, where Oobleck was questioning them. Really, the scenes that really kind of like get into the characters, because we get so little of it. Those are the scenes that I tend to really like as well. So that's what I can answer you. The Sternest, so thank you to Least Likely Suspect. So the Sternest asks, are you gonna put ships in the story? If so, which ones? So it's another shipping question. To answer simply, yes, because I don't think of them as ships, I think of them as romance, right? And romance is like any other relationship, is part of a story, you know, plus they're all a bunch of hormonal teenagers. Of course they're gonna get into relationships. They're gonna like each other, they're gonna fool around and all that sort of thing. So I mean, definitely there'll be romance, and you're free to ship whoever you want. I of course have my own preferences, so, and it's my story, so yeah. Thank you for that question. Blair M asked one of my favorite ships. So it's pretty obvious that since I'm the one running this production, that whatever ships that I favor are gonna be the ones that make it. But that may not be necessarily true, but I'll just tell you, you know, regardless of what appears in this story, what ships I like. So I like Rosegarden, for one. I mean, before this, I never really like saw RWBY like shipped with anyone. I mean, there's Lancaster, but I saw that more as like a brother-sister relationship, more platonic. But when RWBY interacts with Oscar, I kind of feel that, you know, they could like each other. They're both still kind of, you know, awkward and whatever, but I feel like if there's any like guy that RWBY could like, it's probably Oscar. It's probably why I like the ship. I mean, you know, I'm talking about Oscar as a person, you know, like obviously Rosegarden shippers don't ship Rosegarden because of the whole Ospen part. Obviously not. We're shipping it because, you know, Oscar is his own person, and I do like Oscar despite how he's treated in the show, or mistreated rather, how little like development he gets on screen. But I really like him as a character. I think his voice actor Aaron Dismuke plays him really well, and I think it's pretty much pulling half the work when it comes to portraying him. The rest, like the animation and all that, is the, so I generally like Oscar, and he is in the show, I mean in this project, so that's the thing. So as for other ships, as for like ships within Team RWBY, before this I would have mostly considered that Team RWBY have largely platonic relationships with each other, like, you know, like a close-knit unit. And I still generally think that it should be true, like, just to be, I guess, kind of like safe in the sense that it doesn't really shake up the inner team dynamic too much, because, you know, once you ship two of Team RWBY together, then it sort of creates like a divide in the team, like 2 and 2 instead of 4. But if I were to prefer any ships within Team RWBY, I like Ladybug and Freezerburn. To an extent Monochrome too, but the ones I tend to prefer are Ladybug and Freezerburn, and you know why? the scarcity effect. The fact that the canon shows like nearly zero interactions between RWBY and Blake, and only like 1 or 2 interactions between Weiss and Yang in the actual show, which for Weiss and Yang is, you know, the talk they had in volume 5, and then that hug, which I found really nice. It made me like, it makes you fill in the blanks yourself with your mind instead of what's kind of there actually. So definitely what I kind of imagine those interactions would be might be very different for how canon would approach it, but I do like the ideas of the ship, because for RWBY and Blake, at least for the way I portray Blake, is that they're very similar in the sense that both of them are these very supposed to be these sort of very virtuous, pure-hearted types of people who stand up for justice. But in Blake's case, that virtue was corrupted. It was marred because of her past, her dealings with the White Fang. So she's grown jaded and doesn't trust people, and basically is conflicted within herself, whereas RWBY doesn't have that sort of thing. So I feel like they have a nice sort of parallel to each other. So like, and for Weiss and Yang, it's because both of them are kind of like the team moms, right? Because Yang's like the fun older sister of the group, and then Weiss is the responsible one, the one who kind of makes sure everyone is on track. So both of them feel like they are like peers, in the sense of both of them have this sort of maturity to them that I think that the other two won't really relate to. That's kind of what I like. So really, when I say I like these ships, it's more like really, regardless of whether they are romantically involved or not, which I'm still not sure about, I do like their relationships, the potential of their interactions. So whether that will come to fruition or not, I don't know yet, because I'm still pretty early in that writing phase. Other ships, I'm not sure if it's already clear or not, but I clearly am a fan of Summer and Qrow ship, which is called Hummingbird, Hunter's Dream, whatever you call it. First of all, narratively it's just more balanced, and because you know, yeah, the whole entire team meme is fun for like the 15 minutes it lasted, but I don't like it. I feel like the ship has potential, especially like the way that maybe I'm imagining it, because there's really not much to go on. I like the idea of the ship, right? And with RWBY, really, what is RWBY really other than us liking the idea of it? So it definitely will be, and this ship is in this relationship is in the Remnants, will be explored, so do be aware of that. Other than that, I actually like White Knight, like John and Weiss. Like, don't get me wrong, like his actual interactions with Weiss in volumes 1 and 2 are pretty corny, but and you know, Arcos has always been the prevailing ship, of course, but I think like in a post Arcos canon, I think White Knight has some meat to it, because narratively speaking, Pyrrha's no longer there, and then Weiss is there, and it's not like Weiss is a replacement for Pyrrha, because she's so completely opposite of Pyrrha's personality. And what I like is sort of like this reversal of their dynamic, right? The idea that John was this immature teen boy who was pining for Weiss, had a very well-intentioned but definitely very misled sort of infatuation for Weiss, and then Weiss didn't like John back at all. She dismisses him, but she dismisses him wrongly, because she assumed that John just liked the for family name. So both of these people had fundamental misunderstandings about each other. They really John liked Weiss, and Weiss didn't like John, but both because they didn't really get to know each other, right? So the idea is that once they do get to know each other, once they interact more, especially given the events of the fall of Beacon, and especially when they meet up with Team Juniper and interact more, the idea that as they interact more, Weiss and John kind of have this better understanding for each other. They both of them feel like the sort of the strategic members of the team. Weiss not so, but she has more of a she's more of a planner, in the sense that Ruby comes up with the plans, but Weiss is more kind of like the manager, the ones who makes sure that the plan goes according to plan, right? And John is John. So, and of course the idea of a legacy, Weiss has the Shinny name, and John, which they never explore, has the Ark name. His family of is a lineage of hunters. So there is this commonality between them, the fact of Weiss is trying to branch out of that name, whereas John is trying to live up to it. So and then the idea is that eventually Weiss would as both of them get to know each other for who they really are, John sees past his infatuation with Weiss, with just the singing talent, all that, and Weiss gets to see past his goofiness, his awkwardness, and her preconceptions about him. And first of all, in my head, of course it's all head canon, right, that Weiss would grow to have a lot of respect for him. I mean, I've already written a fan fiction for this if I wasn't so lazy about writing it, but basically Weiss grows to have respect for John as a leader from another team, as a fellow ally, and then eventually it's definitely a slow burn type of shit, because as John grows into not only a proper hunter, but as a man, right, as a adult, and so does Weiss, that she goes to respect him and eventually does like him, and then they sort of both have this, but then they both have this tension between each other, right? So there's a lot of story beats. I can see the story beats that can happen between these two, as suddenly the tables are turned. Weiss, who didn't like John for shallow reasons, kind of is maybe interested in him, whereas John, who liked Weiss for shallow reasons, now isn't really, mostly because of Pyrrha, obviously, and because he sort of already moved on from that. He's kind of gone over it. That he acknowledges that it was just a crush, very shallow crush. So then it's a reversal, but then they both left in this sort of awkward tension between each other, because it's a recipe for some nice drama, definitely, because Weiss feels she has this grow, like, you know, hypothetically, of course, that she's having this growing interest in John, but then John is just too torn up with Pyrrha, right? He's unable to move on, and the fact that Weiss, you know, she's very independent, individualistic, so she definitely doesn't want to put herself in a situation where she feels like she would only be to fill the void where Pyrrha left. And you know, I'm pretty much waxing lyrical on this ship for way too long now, so I guess I do kind of like it a lot, the potential of it, because I definitely feel like, I don't know in Remnants or not, but I definitely feel like just this story, this kind of character, this joint character arc that I'm telling you at length about, it has a lot of potential, either as like a one-shot story or as like an arc proper. But I'll stop there before we get into too much in this one question. Okay, so Reconquista again. So yeah, thank you Blair for that for that question. So Reconquista asks again, do you have any original huntsmen or perhaps a team in mind? I do. I have created them, but I don't know for this project yet. And if I do, yeah, I might not show them really, because like I said, I'm gonna prioritize canon characters and really use OCs where really necessary. An original huntsman is likely because there are really like so few professional huntsmen in RWBY that aren't teachers, that you kind of have to, right? You only got like Qrow, and Qrow's technically a teacher too, right? So that leaves out Qrow too. You only have like what, Maria, Dean Dudley, like the frick. That's all. I mean, that aren't teachers, so yeah, it may be a necessary thing, even if you don't like OCs. So Ruby Rose Animate asks, what do you think about other content creators starting a RWBY fan project? I mean, I'm making one, aren't I? They can do whatever the hell they want, you know, they can create whatever they want. Why am I gonna comment? Why am I gonna stop them from making RWBY fan projects when I'm making one myself? I mean, they should. I mean, I've gotten comments before from, I'm sure, well-meaning people who tell me, you know, why are you making this? Like, why are you putting so much effort into a fan project? You could like take all this effort and put it into something original. Make your own world. Just, you know, file the names off, file all the RWBY names off. Make your own universe. And I get what those people are saying. I mean, my best friend, he doesn't really, I mean, he knows a bit about the RWBY thing, but in regards to things like, let's say, mods, like the modding community in games, and like I was talking to him about this kind of like this fan-made Half-Life 3 project called Project Borealis, and I thought it was really cool, but he thought, you know, why would they put this much effort into something that number one will never be considered official. Like, you can make it the best freaking game fan project ever, but you know, it will always hold a candle, you know, play second fiddle to the official. Regardless of the quality of the official content, this fan project will always be in its shadow. And you know, he made a good point about that. And so like, and plus, you know, all that effort that this group of people could have done had they made their own game, you know, if they made this Project Borealis fan project like its own game, and it's a very robust, very solid project. You should look it up. Like, you know, all the gravity gun physics, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. And yeah, if they just pour their efforts together and make their own thing. And same goes for like Skyrim mods, which are like really can get really crazy sometimes with how large scale they are. Why couldn't all these people just, you know, work together and make their own thing? It would blast everything else out of the water. It'd be professional level. But really, it is a double-edged sword because if it weren't for that fandom like Skyrim or Half-Life 3 or RWBY that brought these people together, they wouldn't. They're working together because there was this vested interest, this investment in making something that they felt should exist. So in regards to that, it's like if people like ask me or like tell me, you know, why are you like putting so much effort for like, you know, this fan project? You know, Rooster Teeth is not gonna like, you know, make it canon. Obviously, I mean, obviously not. Why put so much effort into it? Like, why waste your effort on it? And I think that is, to me, it's a bit of a short-sighted way to look at it, to call it wasted effort, because firstly, I really love RWBY, so the fact of the matter is I want to make something that really kind of embodies what I feel and what hopes and ideas I had for it. Ideas which, yeah, definitely I can recycle them into original projects. I've done that before. I've taken parts of this idea from RWBY or from here and implemented them to my own stuff like Vanitas or Summoner, but it will never really hit the same way, right? It will never really hit the same way as it does in Remnant in that exact context. And you can't copy too much or else, you know, you're not original anymore. You're making a derivative work that pretends it's not. So to answer that, it's like, I mean, yeah, it's well intentioned because they see like, you know, all this effort being put and maybe they feel like it's a shame. Like, it's a shame that you're putting so much effort into that, but you know, I want to make what I want. And this is what drives me. I mean, and clearly, if you follow me, if you know my work, and the sort of like projects I've been working on, I don't intend for Remnants to be the only thing I'm working on for my channel. Things like Summoner, things like Vanitas are already under production, so it's not like I've abandoned everything to only work on fan projects. I definitely have my own stories that I want to tell, but you know, Remnants is one of those stories that I want to tell. You know, it doesn't really matter if it's a fan project or not, or if it's original. If my artistic self wants to express it, I have to express it. It's as simple as that. So I guess that. So yeah, it's like, no, it's not a shame. It's not wasted effort. Because, you know, I enjoy the world. I enjoy its community. The community is a huge part. And really, obviously, I'm not really doing it for like the views in the sense of it, you know, because you know, you're kind of piggybacking off an existing content. But obviously, fan works get your foot in the door. Let's not lie about that. And you know, it's definitely a benefit that because I make RWBY content, that attention is being brought to my channel, which allows me to make my original work. So I don't see why those two can't coexist together. If you're hardworking enough, if you have, you know, enough gumption, enough, you know, faith in your own ideas and all that, it doesn't really matter if you know, you can balance all those things. So that's my answer to that. So thank you to RWBY Rose Animate. Next question. We're gonna be taking a long while, fellas. Abel Zerihun asks, how many videos do you have planned for this fan project? No idea. This, I intentionally made this so that I can sort of make whatever I want, like the moment I have the idea for it. So it's like, if I have the idea for like a Wise video, which I'm working on right now, I can just straight away work on it and not worry about, I have to worry about continuity, but I don't have to worry about, you know, following up with another Wise video, like a part 2 afterward. I can just, it's its own video, its own contained like story narrative thing in that video, like the Blake, student profile video. It's like, it's its own thing, and you can get a story from there, and then I'm sort of like spreading these little breadcrumbs for you to pick up or eat, or whatever the analogy is. So it's like, yeah, so it's for me to milk out as much as I want, but because it's not linear, you know, I don't have to worry. It's like the fact that it doesn't follow like, you know, a strict progression, then I don't have to worry about, you know, oh, I stopped at volume 2 episode 8 and then it's like left on a hiatus because I felt like, you know, doing something else or going somewhere else, but I can't because I had to finish that arc. But I don't have that problem here, because if I want to go to Vacuo, I could just make the next video about Vacuo and make it about a different character, and that will, and regardless of that, it will be win-win, because I get to make whatever I feel like making at the time, and it helps to add more bricks to the house. It helps to add more information, more lore, more character info to the world. So I found that it was all trial and error to get to this format. I've tried, you know, trying to make a comic or try to plan an animation, but none of them really hit right. But it's with these kind of randomish but not really random videos that I've sort of found a stride. So thank you for that, Abel, for that question. Exodus TGU asks, what kind of time setting will the series take place in? Medieval, steampunk, dystopian future, or similar to the setting of RWBY right now? Yeah, it's basically like RWBY. Essentially, it's like fantasy and sci-fi. Sorry, the brown one's outside. So, it is like RWBY. It is sci-fi. I feel like recently, you know, volume 8, since they arrived at Atlas, it has been alright so far. But definitely in like volumes 4 and 5, definitely was not enough sci-fi elements. It felt very fantasy in canon RWBY, which I felt like definitely when you see it on screen. Oh, excuse me. Definitely when you see it on screen, you feel like there's something missing. You know, if RWBY was just a pure medieval fantasy, it lacks something. Mostly because, you know, you kind of need at least modern technology to make the transforming weapons work. Otherwise, those type of weapons in a pure fantasy medieval setting wouldn't work, unless they're like purely magical, or like, you know, steampunk or who knows what. But basically it is like that. I mean, I'll tell you that for like previous drafts, previous rewrites for RWBY, like RWBY Cherish, and that I've worked on, I definitely used a lot of reference from things like Destiny, the game, and like Star Wars. Not really so much the setting or like specific ideas, but just the general idea of like, it's just like a thing in Star Wars and Destiny, which is like, it's very clearly like sci-fi, but it has like this certain mystical elements, these fantasy parts that they don't really explain, like magic, like the Force, which I think is sort of more or less what RWBY does with all like its fairy tale parallels, but set in like, you know, a world of guns, and it's like, you know, it's like a modern world colliding with a fantasy world. The modern world being the kingdoms, and the fantasy world kind of providing the mystery, like all the fairy tale illusions, and the grim, the mystery of the grim. So it's definitely one of the things that makes RWBY unique, which is why it's very hard to replicate in something else without, you know, feeling too similar if I work on something like that. So that's that. Like the original world I'm working on, like Vanitas, is also very similar because it is based on RWBY a bit, and my other influences like Destiny, but the setting is completely different. The races, species are completely different. So that's how you gotta like add differences. So it's not just like a RWBY clone in the sense, you know, it's like just file off the names and just replace them, and then you have like the same things like aura, weapons, but just change the names. I mean, that's not really good enough, is it? So yeah, thank you. So this Kian Luan Ngo asks, what is the major role for Adam Taurus? I hope he plays major role in the story, and I hope you do not make him a straight up evil, one-dimensional villain and abusive ex-boyfriend. Adam is in Remnants. I mean he is in the story. He's part of Blake's arc after all. So what is happening over there? He definitely played a large role. And as for how he'll be handled, I mean, I can't guarantee you anything. I prefer results. So I do have a script for Blake video, and so when that comes out, I ask that you check it out and see for yourself whether you think I handled Adam correctly or not. Because I can tell you right now what I'm planning, but I feel like, if I tell you too much, then you gotta have some element of surprise. It's not that I'm trying to deliberately like lead people on or anything, but it's just more the fact of like, yeah, I can tell you, but then what I tell you isn't really the same as seeing it on a video. Is why I make these videos. Is why I was not satisfied with just bouncing around ideas in Discord and just writing hypothetical outcomes and such. When you see it on video, it's tangible, right, in a visual sense. So that's what I plan to do. Ugo again asks, what is your favorite anime and manga? Any recommendations? Okay, so here I don't really have like favorites, you see. I certainly like certain manga and anime, and manga and anime I do, because I don't read and watch both, so what I like between them would be different. But for action series, I definitely like the usual suspects, like One Punch Man. I mostly read My Hero Academia, but I do like the anime a lot too. Promised Neverland is really good, the manga. I'm watching the anime a bit too. People say that it kind of fell off in the manga for Promised Neverland, which I do kind of agree with, but I don't necessarily hate it either. I can never see like the tone, well, not the tone, but just sort of like the appeal, like the style of the series shifted from like the sort of like weird conspiracy kind of feel to like something more actiony, and like with all like the demons and such. I won't spoil it, but but I still liked it. I mean, I read it all the way to the end, and I still, you know, liked the ending enough. I think it was a fitting, not fitting, but I still think it was. I liked the conclusion. You know, it didn't leave me hanging. I don't like endings that leave me hanging. I like, you know, closure. So, as for, I mean, I haven't gone to Demon Slayer yet, but I do intend to, because it is Ufotable Studio after all. A consistent one that I could say is a favorite or in the top 10 list is Little Witch Academia, Studio Trigger. I really like that. It's been quite influential on me, and it's just very creative, very well animated. It's just a very nice show to watch, because it was made as an animation first, so everything is just very expressive, and I like the sort of fusion between like the cartoon Western animation and the anime style. It's really nice to look at. And as for like more towards the emotional side, like anime that has actually helped in my sort of formative, formed my opinions, my worldviews, kind of like contributed to the person I am. Of course, I did like Anohana. I mean, you know, who hasn't like watched anime? Because the anime is like on the list of like, you know, anime that make you cry. It's like somewhere near the top of the list. So I did watch it. I did cry. It wasn't really too life-changing though. I mean, it was a good story for sure, but I like Toradora as well. I like Toradora, but I didn't like the fact that, like, I get why, you know, Taiga won, but I liked Minori. I was a Minori fan from the start, and she didn't win, so I'm pissed about that. I'll always be bitter about that anyway. And what I like also is my love comedy Snafu, or Oregairu. I really like that one. I really related to Hachiman, and really it was a very well written story. It was based on a light novel, I believe, and it's a very interesting, kind of pretty mature look at teenagers too, like their worldviews, their relationships. I mean, the unrealistic part is, you know, the class recluse being friends with the two most attractive girls in school. That'll probably never fucking happen, but in real life. But other than that, it was generally quite realistic and believable, and I really liked the scene at the end. You know the one where he like says like, I want something real, right? And that's, you know, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And that one really hit me in the anime, because it really allowed me to understand like what people look for in relationships, what people look for in just life. It's a very good anime. You should watch it. It's just also why I like Persona 4. You know, it really helps you understand. It helps you really like understand relationships. Like, you know, empathize with people. But don't watch the Persona 4 anime. It's all right. It's just, you know, it's just an adaptation. It's not really had like a few good scenes, but you know, it's just pretty okay throughout. Just play the game, you know. Recommendations, basically anything that I just said. I liked Fate Zero and Madoka as well. Madoka Magica. I think I'll definitely need to rewatch those two again, because I think it'll definitely hit different now than it did for me back then. But generally, came out what, 2011, 2008, 2011, one of those years. It was definitely a very good year for anime, for sure. I never really stayed up to date since then, so that's the extent of my knowledge and I could talk to you about Sword Art Online, but that's a whole other video in itself. That one's a doozy. Now, Sam I Am, so thank you, Ugo again. Sam I Am asks, will RWBY Remnants be released in seasons throughout the year or some other release schedule? Whenever I feel like it, because like what I said about the being able to make whatever I want. But I do plan to at least release a video, not necessarily Remnants, but any kind of video from my projects that's not like a reaction or like a low effort video, like a proper video with voice acting, with drawings of any of my projects, whether it's Remnants or Vanitas or Summoner Plus. Like either once a week if I can help it, but that's kind of stretching it thin, so once every 2 weeks at most, so like 1 to 2 weeks, and like about 10 days average. Like this Wise one is definitely taking some time because I'm working on 2 videos at once, so that's sort of why it sort of ended up that way. But I'm gonna change up my production a bit, so hopefully it won't be too long a wait for each video. Has anything notable changed from your RWBY Needs a New Beginning video? And lastly, how are you today? I'm fine. Didn't sleep much, but I'm fine. I'm definitely fine. What's changed? So RWBY Needs a New Beginning. It's kind of what put my channel on the map in terms of the RWBY community, for better or worse, because of that sort of fan opinion, or rather the type of fans I tend to attract, which are normally the critical people, which not a bad thing necessarily, but I like reaching out to both, like to all parts of the community, because I see value in both. But whatever. So that one was when RWBY Cherish was born, so that's the previous draft of Remnants basically. So is anything notable changed? So like I answered, yeah, definitely. The lore definitely changed. It's a lot simpler now. I mean, you already know from the trailer the whole thing about the goddess, the moon goddess, and the 3 gifts, and then the curse of death, which is the grip. That's sort of like the backbone fairy tale that sort of like directs the world building of Remnants. That's really the major difference. The rest, in terms of like characters and story, because Cherish never really went that far in terms of actual production, I'll likely recycle a lot of that, because a lot of it was stuff that no one's ever seen. So I can just use whatever I want to use. Some things will definitely change because opinions change. I think that maybe this idea is better now than it was before. So, but basically it's nothing that really you've seen, so it's all gonna be fresh for you guys anyway. So thank you for that, Sam. Alright, Robert Bloomsburg asks, what are your thoughts in shipping in general? It's like I said, I treat shipping like relationships, romance, things that before shipping culture, before like fandom culture was really a thing, since the 2000s. Romance has always been a thing since time immemorial. It's a relationship. It's a human relationship like any other. So if I want to explore that in Remnants, then it's simply natural to do so. Not really because of shipping, but because it's just how humans interact with each other. So those are my thoughts on shipping. I mean, if you want to know like my meta thoughts on shipping, as in like in terms of like fandom and all that, well, toxic ships obviously exist. Toxic shipping, toxicity in any form in the fandom definitely exists, but I consider myself kind of a shipper, because I just if I find two characters queued together, I can, as you can clearly see just now, ramble on and on about, you know, the potential for their relationship, especially in not say a narrative sense, but in like a character arc sense. I really like the idea of how a romance between two characters can sort of change them as people and sort of like feed into each other, like to really like build up their character arcs. But you know, shipping is inevitable, and you know, let people have the fun they want. You know, they think these two characters are cute together. It's their way of engaging with your story, and as long as they're civil about it, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, yes, they can be very gung-ho about it, obviously, but you know, it's a scale. You know, it's not all shippers are bad, and definitely all shippers are good. It always falls somewhere in the middle. So that's that. Blair M again, I think, yeah, asks, will there be original characters, or are you sticking to the Rooster Teeth roster? Yeah, like I said, mostly canon until an official character I feel would fit that role better. So thank you for that. Arsti Leah asks, what's your favorite RWBY Remnants outfit that you made? Interesting. So I think I'll just like sort of like lump that in with designs, right? Character designs. Redesigns wise, I do like the beacon uniform, the new beacon uniform that I drew. I think it could be better. I think definitely could be designed a bit better. There's some details with it that I think could be better, but I like it because it's definitely a lot easier to draw. A lot easier to draw. The colors are pretty simple. It has, you know, the red, white, black, yellow that is, you know, emblematic of Team RWBY. Other than that, designs wise, I like weapon redesigns too, and I have redesigned Crescent Rose in the past, and I kind of like their designs because Crescent Rose is a great design, you know, the official one that Monty made, but I ain't drawing that shit. I'm not drawing that shit over and over like 100 times, so I have to redesign it in a way that not only is easier to draw for like 2D, because it's not a 3D model, you know, that you can just model once and replicate as many times as you need, but it has to be one that I know the inner workings of. Like if I know mechanically how this thing works, and for Crescent Rose I only know like half of how it works, then I prefer, you know, make something that I know how it works, so that, you know, when I have it in different angles, when I draw it like, you know, transforming in and out, then I can actually, you know, make it look like what it's supposed to. I have plans for a Blake redesign too. I mean, for a weapon, but that one's a secret for now. Blake herself, I quite like Blake's redesign that I've done. Basically, like gives it like a more renegade fighter kind of feel. But I'll see whether I settle on that. What other designs have I done really? I've only mainly touched on the designs of the main girls. I haven't really gone too far into others, and when I've gone to the others, they're mostly similar. Oh, but what I do like is I really enjoyed the redesigns for Team STRQ as young people. Summer, you know, Tai Yang, Qrow, Raven. I've done designs for them before. You can look at my Twitter. Well, I guess that'd be hard to find, but you know, you can find it around my DeviantArt or Twitter. The redesigns I've done for Team STRQ, and I really enjoyed it because it makes them really look different, and it's just sort of my own way of getting, kind of vicariously getting the Team STRQ flashback that went probably don't know if we're ever gonna get. So yeah, I think Team Stark definitely to answer that question. To make a long story short, I think I really like the Team Stark ideas. I really like them because I think that they feel very. I think they seem believable enough to be those, like, to look like younger versions of those characters, but also as something that it feels to me, you know, like, you know, I designed them, these designs, and they, when you look at these designs, you know that I drew them. You know, it's like how you would look at a dishwasher. His RWBY 3.0 art, his redesigns of Penny, like his long hair redesign of Penny, which was so good that they made it into the show. That one, yeah, I mean, you look at it and you know that's that guy's version, and I think I feel the same way for my Team Stark designs. Okay, Andrew Schleiger, did I say that right? Andrew Schleiger asks, what inspired you to remake RWBY? So, when you say remake, I assume you mean, like, you know, doing this, like, this fan project. So, that's a long question. Okay, this is a pretty long, there's a lot of backstory behind this question, or behind the answer to this question, so I'll try to keep it short. In short, it's because I've tried doing, like, one-off fan art before. I tried making, like, comics before for RWBY, and I've always consistently wanted to make, like an AU for RWBY, an alternate universe, or like what I really enjoy about making fan content of RWBY is the speculation aspect. Like, what would the adult version of this character look like? What would this student, like, what would Team RWBY look like as third year students or as professional huntsmen? I really like the idea of that and exploring that, and but you know, I'm not just satisfied with as just like making the design and posting it. I've done that, obviously, but what really, like, inspires me is, like, to think about how did it get there. You know, if, let's say, this character has this scar or lost this limb, what caused that to happen? And then, you know, you enter a rabbit hole, or I enter a rabbit hole where, like, oh, maybe this happened, maybe this person fought this person, and then on and on it goes until you basically have a timeline of events. You have, like, you know, a story, something resembling one, and that's sort of what it's sort of like a natural growth of the things, of the fan work that I like to make for RWBY. So, you know, I like to speculate on what would number one, what would be interesting, you know, like an interesting expansion on that character. Number two, what feels uniquely me as an artist, in terms of my style, my design. And third, what feels like believable, you know, like what feels like when you look at it, you'll be like, yeah, that could happen, you know, like something that feels like it's, you know, true to the spirit of the source material, which is what I try to strive to do, without, you know, sacrificing my own style, my own interpretation of it, because, you know, that's unavoidable. So that's why, because, you know, I could just do, like, you know, a fun one-off comics, you know, gag comics, which other creators have done, or just, you know, one-off designs, which, you know, nothing wrong with that. Obviously, you do you, but myself as an artist, you know, when I, you know, make something, particularly for RWBY, it's not true for everything that I do, that I feel like, you know, I want to know how it happened. I want to know, like, what are the relationships and the sort of story elements, the factors that led to that, and that's how RWBY Cherish and now Remnants is the way it is today. So thank you for that question, Andrew. Next question by Roberto Montelongo. Will the Goddess of the Moon be mentioned more? Well, this idea was something that, you know, I made for Remnants. It's like kind of an original idea. It's the original, but you know, it's an idea that's not in canon that, you know, made for Remnants. So yeah, it will be mentioned more, but it's more of like, it's more like, you know, I mean, you gotta, like, you know, just you watch and find out, because, you know, is it like a, like, is it like something that's important to the story? Is it just a bedtime story? Is it like, you know, something that you have, would you take this seriously as actual lore, like what actually happened? Watch and find out. Okay, thank you, Roberto. Blue Sphere asks, favorite RWBY fan team, example Silver and Neon. I don't know that many, honestly. I know the famous ones, obviously, like Silver. I know Team Neon. I know Team Dark. That's not my favorite ones. Maybe the ones that I designed. I do have, like I mentioned, I have an OC team, and I like more like I like certain members from each team a lot, not necessarily the entire team. Like from Team Silver, I liked Viridian the most. I forgot what her name was exactly. Vela? Was it Vela? I think it was Vela. The one with the bow, the sniper bow. She is my favorite. I really liked the witch chick from Regalia. That one I really forgot her name. I like the two, but I like Viridian Vela more. Neon, I don't remember much about Neon, honestly, so sorry about that. Dark, I kind of like the idea of the, I don't remember their names, but the, you know, the guy with the hood. He's really prominent. He's like a super tall guy, and his wears like all black, looks like super edge. But he contrasts that with, like, you know, he seems like a very chill, level-headed personality. He doesn't really speak either. I mean, of course, you know, it's no voice actors really, but doesn't speak. So it's like, it's really like honestly kind of edgy design, but the actual character itself is pretty chill. So I really like that contrast. There are a lot of really good RWBY OCs on DeviantArt that don't have, you know, their own animations. I left, like, I know Team Brook off the top of my head, BRKE. You can look them up. There's another one too, but yeah, this is bothering me. I need to look it up. Yeah, I definitely gotta shout out some fellow artists. The OCs, which are probably commissions, maybe not all of them original, but the OCs drawn by 21 AS, definitely very good. Those are the ones that really stick out in my mind. The design's really nice. Yeah, especially this one. I really distinctly remember this OC team, Team Shay. Very cool. Team Brook, yeah, I mentioned Team Brook. Team Brook was this one. This is like really quite an old one, right? But you know, I really remember this team a lot. I liked them a lot. I think I liked these two the most. But yeah, this artist, definitely check them out. Then this two, I think it's the same. It's Helm Guy, so I'm not sure it's the same artist. The style is very similar though, but I really like these two as well. Especially the girl, looks really badass. And while searching, I also stumbled upon this OC by DK Gem. It's a really freaking good design. Well, yeah, I mean, RWBY fan community, you can always count on them to be really creative. So like, yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of really amazing fan content on the RWBY community, and that's always something I've stood by. So yeah, that's to answer that. Thank you, Blue Sphere. Joe Schmo asks, how does Yang feel about her deadbeat mom in this version? That's a bit spoilery, but I'll just say that there is a bit more. I mean, there's the whole abandonment issues thing, and keep in mind this is still a draft, so don't take it with a grain of salt really. But there's definitely an element of vengeance there. Not really like I want to kill you or anything, but Yang feels wronged by Raven, obviously. So it's not just she's sad that Raven left. She's angry that Raven left. She feel like she was wronged, that she was deprived of the childhood that she needed, and she wants to not only find her again, she wants to get even. That's all I'll say about that. Thank you for that. Diablo48 asks, are you thinking of adding Cinder in the series? If so, what major changes would you have on this character? Cinder is in Remnants. I have a script for her ready, and in fact I've already casted a character. A voice actress for her. Oh yeah, Rose Petal, from Casting Call Club, who auditioned for Cinder. And what major changes would you have? I almost don't know the answer to that myself. I'm still thinking about it, right? But I have a very strong idea of what I want of her in the show itself. I mean, in the story itself. The only real bumps I have right now are with her backstory. Her backstory is really important. It kind of defines her as a character, so I'm working that out. But as for like Cinder in the present as she appears in the story, I have a very definite idea for her, and you will definitely see a video about Cinder in the future. So thank you, Joe. Thank you, Diablo. KD the King asks, hey, when did you start drawing, and any tips for new artists? That's a loaded question. I started drawing when I was, as long as I can remember really, I was like maybe 3 years old, 3 to 5 years old. I was already drawing, and drawing is all I really know. It's kind of my only outstanding talent or skill rather. I write, I like doing different things, but if I'm known for one thing, it's normally drawing. So it's something I've done from the beginning. And any tips, I'll give you a very general one. It is consistency. So you don't have to draw every day, but you just have to be aware of the fact that you can only improve by drawing more. And obviously you're gonna fail, you're gonna you can't draw like the thing that when you draw, it won't come out the way you want it to look like. It's a source of frustration. But as long as you keep drawing the things that you want to draw, keep drawing things that you like to draw. But of course, take time to learn the fundamentals like human anatomy, proper line work, things like that. It depends on if you're traditional or digital, but you don't have to draw every day, but do draw whenever you feel like you want to draw as much as you want to, right? About things that you like, because that will be the starting motivator for you to sort of draw things that you maybe don't like so much, or just neutral about, or don't like to draw. Connecting it to the things that you like will help you. So there's plenty of artist channels on YouTube that can definitely help a lot in that regard. And the one that I would recommend is, I need to look them up, is, what was it? Ethan Becker. Really, there's a bit of an acquired taste, this YouTuber. He has a very blunt sense of humor and all that, but I would recommend this guy. He he doesn't mess around with his advice, so, and which is I find quite useful. And for like experienced artists, I recommend Lucid Pixel. Like people who are like already well into like the professional scene, like working for studios and all that, I definitely recommend Lucid Pixel, because it talks a lot about, you know, these sort of philosophical questions about like why we draw, what we draw, and the sort of struggles that artists go through. Those are my recommendations: Ethan Becker and Lucid Pixel. There is Brandon Dayton as well. Brandon Dayton, he doesn't update a lot, but he has a podcast now which I haven't listened to much, but he, you know, he draws while talking, and he also has like a very, you know, a very level-headed view of, you know, the artistic experience career. So I recommend not only, you know, watching his videos but supporting his work as well. He makes the webcomic Green Monk, which is on, I believe, Tapas. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's where, you know, where I host the summoner. So great art, great storytelling. Check it out. So anyway, thank you for that question, KD. Is this your own logo? It's nice. Andrew Like asks, yeah, so thank you, KD. Will we see a different rendition of Volume 3? An example would be the Eclipse verse by Cosmic Fiction and Marvel Fiction. I don't know what that is. Eclipse verse. I have no idea what it is. It sounds like a fan fiction crossover thing. I don't know what Eclipse verse is. But to answer your question, yeah, you will. For sure. I'll leave it at that. Grey World. Oi! Saitokun, how is it going? My first question: within the law of remnants, do the people as a whole, as a separate individuals, worship one god or multiple gods in the universe? There's the goddess. As for like religion itself, I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's not really a thing I'm gonna explore too much. But you know, the goddess is the moon goddess is, you can just, you know, think of it as the prevalent belief among people of remnant. You know, that's just the simplest way to go about it. Second question: will students of all academies be wearing regular clothes separate from their huntsman, huntress, and academy uniforms? Yes. I mean, they are people. They don't just wear uniforms and their combat outfits all day. And if you follow like my community tab, you know that I have drawn the RWBY characters in casual clothes, and I do enjoy doing that. So yeah, the answer to the question is yes. Third question: what would the rating be? The age rating. The closest I can really say is PG-16. It's not explicit, but it's not all ages either. There's a lot. There will be a lot of swearing where needed, especially from Mercury. I can tell you that Mercury is gonna swear a lot. Mercury is in this. It's in Remnants. There'll be swearing. There will be, I wouldn't say a lot of gore. There will be blood, obviously. There won't not be like too gory, but definitely blood, and definitely a lot of horror elements. I'm a fan of horror, not a big fan, but I like the use of horror in storytelling, visual storytelling. You know, the apathy episode in RWBY was interesting for me to watch. To like kind of like to analyze too, as like someone who like likes horror tropes. So there will be, you know, horror elements. It's not really, you know, the actual genre of Remnants isn't horror, but it does have moments, and I hope that the Grimm are intimidating. creepy, scary as needed. So that's another challenge to tackle. Okay, so thank you, Grey Will. Choco Toasties asks, is Sun gonna be in the story? It's your favorite, so I have to ask. I don't know. He's one of those characters who's like in the limbo of I don't know whether he will be in the story or not yet, because I've not written enough of the story where I feel like I need him yet. Like, of course, he'll be a fun. If I add him, he will be a very fun character, and I like Sun. He's one of my favorite characters from canon RWBY in general. He's just a very consistent character all throughout the series. A consistently good and entertaining character to watch. I don't think he's never really had bad moments in the show, so I really like Sun. But if I feel like I don't have like a spot for him to fit in the story, if what Sun kind of accomplished for Blake in canon RWBY can sort of be accomplished by the rest of Team RWBY, then I might not include Sun, but I don't know yet. So that's the answer to that. So thank you for that question, Choco. James Barry, are you thinking of adding Adam into this? Wait, did I really see this? Well, I already answered this. Yes. Major changes. I mean, he will be a revolutionary, freedom fighter, that kind of ideological villain. I think if anything I want to say about Adam, he'd definitely be an ideological villain for Blake, as in they both are on opposite sides of how they're gonna tackle the White Fang conflict. Okay, Pedro to ask, will there be something like the Maidens and the Relics, or will you let them normally? I'm not sure what that means, but sorry, but Maidens and Relics, no. If they are, it'll be like only in name. Like they might be something called a Maiden or called a Relic, but it'll just be like such a different idea that it's basically not the same thing at all. So there are no Maidens or Relics as we understand them in canon, in Remnants. It's just more straightforward that way for me. Because I'm not gonna deal with that. Including those really makes writing a lot tougher. I'll tell you that. It's gonna be a long video. Strawberry Queen asks, I'm bringing home a fan classic. If/when Yang loses her arm, I'm not answering that, but thank you for the question. Jade, is Roman Torchwick going to be alive and stay alive and have backstory, be a villain? Roman is kind of like in the same position as Sun, but in the villain department, right? And because but I think he might be because of Neo. You can't really have Neo without Roman, but then again, no one's really tried having Neo without Roman, so Neo is in Remnants, I believe. I mean, yeah, it's more of a preference thing. Like, I like Neo a lot, so it's more like trying to like fit her into the into Remnants. But whether she is has the whole Roman connection, whether Roman is there, I believe that as a sort of necessity because of Neo, Roman might be there, but whether how prominent he is may not be as prominent as he is, but I can't really say for sure because I've not tackled really like the meat of like the whole everything that happens in Veil Beacon yet in my writings yet. Okay, but thank you for that question. Cyanide Legends asks, does Aura and Semblance still work the same way it did in RWBY Cherish, or is it like the original RWBY? Another loaded question. I'll give you the short version. There are elements from RWBY Cherish which I think is kind of the same, but RWBY Cherish kind of went into a lot of detail, like they classified them to different categories and stuff, and I kind of like I got sick of it, so I kind of like axed it. I mean, I might still use it. I mean, I probably will, but it's not really like a need to know kind of thing. So basically, Aura, it all fits into the whole three gifts thing. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, you will know the three gifts of Dust, Aura, and Semblance, and these three are connected to each other in like a, not say a loop, but they definitely are very closely interrelated to each other. And that's sort of how I'm going to construct the magic system and rework Aura and some Semblance and Dust. But to give you the short version is that the model for Aura that I'm looking at right now, because you know Aura is kind of the big thing that trips up a lot of people when it comes to the law of RWBY, is that there's like the aura that everyone has aura, every living thing has aura, and it helps protect your body, like, you know, grants you like, you know, resistance to weather, helps you heal small injuries, things like that, things that everyone would have. And if you have like a stronger aura of that, you would be tougher, a bit more resilient. Not really enough to like protect you from a grim or, you know, like a really fatal attack, but it is there. Whereas you need to have your aura activated to have it like be really on the level of a huntsman. So you have to activate it, like consciously activate your aura for it to like do all the crazy stuff, like make shields and like do all that, the key blast thing that renders, and to use your semblance as well. So you need to activate it. You have to activate it for it to work. But after that, whether it's a passive or active, like do you have to like consciously think of your aura to use it? The system I've used, because that one's a bit of a tough one, right? Because if it's passive, that means it's on all the time. That means it's on all the time. But if it's active, like you have to choose when to activate it, which I don't know what version the show is going with right now. But if it's active, like you have to choose when to use it, then obviously snipers will be overpowered in Remnant, assassins will be overpowered in Remnant, and it doesn't really explain Qrow's semblance either, because he's always unlucky. But if, you know, aura is like activated, doesn't that mean he could like turn his luck on and off? So, you know, it's kind of weird. But the way I see it is that when you know, activate your aura in the sense of like what Pyrrha did for John, you make it like more than just like more powerful. You know, it upgrades your aura, right? Then you would already gain like, you know, increased, you have to train it of course, but you gain like increased reflexes, your sense of intuition is heightened. So like it's kind of like a mini spidey sense for people to like know when danger's gonna come. So that's like the counter argument for like the sniper thing. Because like, you know, like what Pyrrha said in the Emerald Forest arc, like do you know when you feel like you're being watched? So there's like this intuition aspect to aura, to know, to sense danger before it passes, and the more trained you are in that on your aura, the more aware you would be of that, and that's how you can, you know, just like turn it on at a moment's notice to protect you from danger. Thank you, Cyanide Legends. NN asks, nearly to the end, will the series be like an animatic or an actual animation? I like where the series is going so far. Thank you. You have a like. Clearly, I'm the one guy drawing all of this and kind of editing it myself too. So other than the voice actors and Edelweiss, who is doing the audio mixing, I really am doing all the rest of it myself in terms of like the content of the video. So it's not gonna be an animation. Let's not kid ourselves here. I mean, if I were to go the route of, you know, Mark Zhang to make like Silver or Team Dark or Team Neon, it's gonna be like a year before like one episode comes out, and I am not a dedicated worker. I have a very short attention span, so that's why I'm gonna make it, it's more like a slideshow, animatic, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, something like an animatic or a slideshow. So that will be how it is, because I would rather make as many videos exploring as many different characters and story ideas as that I can, instead of blowing all my budget, my time, my effort into a once a year animated video, which is not something that I would even have the momentum or the drive to do all the way anyway. And I think this is more successful for me overall. So thank you for that. And last question from Dank Blitzwing. What do you think of the following? White Rose, Arcos, and the current show's treatment of Ironwood. So I already spoke about White Rose. Gotta get ready for some hot takes here. So I'll answer that Ironwood one first. Ironwood in volume 7 is freaking great. Ironwood in volume 7 is really excellent writing. So no complaints there. I think he's definitely one of the better written arcs in the show up to that point. Currently in volume 8, pretty iffy. He feels like he's kind of like turning into a different character. But I'll wait for the entire volume to finish. Significant change happens with James to really form a proper opinion on his direction. But volume 7 James, really solid all throughout. Very good. Now Arcos, I was never really a big fan of Arcos back then. I saw it more as platonic, like, not to say brother sisterly, but definitely very upperclassman underclassman kind of thing, like partners, right? But I'm fine with the ship. Like, I can see them together, but I don't really feel a really burning need to. I'm fine with it. I'm fine without them being a couple. As for White Rose, this is where the takes get hot, because I feel that White Rose, before this, I felt that White Rose is kind of the whole wheat bread of RWBY ships, because I don't know, I for me it feels like a very generic ship. That you have the cheerful one and the tsundere one, and I was like, okay, I mean maybe, but after talking to like a White Rose fan in depth about the ship, I do definitely see why people like it a lot as a ship, because it's very tangible. It's a ship with a lot of material. Like, there's no shortage of good chemistry interactions between Weiss and RWBY in the show itself. But I think maybe what I like about shipping is sort of the unexplored aspects of it, like the parts that aren't immediately apparent but feel like, if explored, could be really good, which is why I liked those ships I mentioned before, like Ladybug, Freezerbird, and White Knight. And to an extent Rosegarden too, because while there is stuff there, it's not really explored. It's just a lot of teasing with not much going anywhere. But I do like what's there. But my opinion of White Rose has improved lately. And Bumblebee, because I think Kristen was going to ask it about Bumblebee. In the Team RWBY ships is my least favorite, regardless of whether it's of how it's portrayed in the show. I just feel like they have the least there's just less things to really build off from that relationship. And for me, obviously, my opinion, because I mean, obviously, if I talk to a Bumblebee fan, they'll definitely show me all the different things that could happen in their relationship, and I've seen, you know, the stuff in volume 2 and all that leading up to it, but I just like the other combinations better. So that concludes the Q&A session. Obviously, I had to go on and ramble for a long ass time, so I ended up way long. But you know, thank you for watching. If you've sat through all this, I'll try to add timestamps, so you know it'll be easier time navigating this really long video. And I guess I'll talk to you guys next time, and a new video on the way and all that jazz. See you.